Welcome to Whatsoever, more or less. My name is Jason, and I know I've been posting a lot lately. Kind of moving on to some of the deeper prophetic concepts related to the Constitution. And this one right here that I have is I'm going to talk about the days of tribulation that President Benson talked about, at least, okay? And Gordon B. Hinckley, and really it seems like President Nelson too, right? So um, it seems, honestly, too, first off, it seems that our founding was a mix of different kind of guys. But if you look at those first three founding presidents, at least first four, I think, because I don't think Hamilton was a farmer. I think he was just an investment class type of person. But if you look at Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, maybe even Monroe, I don't know as much about Monroe. They were interested apparently in things like greenhouses, which kind of seeds they can bring from different regions. Then they were fascinated too with the Native Americans and how successful they had been at farming, and they found them to be a very wise people that inspired them, and they wanted to learn from them. And these are just things that I kind of off the top of my head. It's not like I've deeply researched what they said. I'm going to go more towards what our prophets have said. But a lot of this connects to our founding too. See, John Adams said our Constitution is only sufficient for the government of a moral and a religious people. And, we've talked about the word moral, that it's not just, it has a lot of connotations of chastity and stuff like that nowadays, right? But there was more to it than that. Historically, same thing with the word virtue, right? Historically, there was more to it than that. There's something about a family. Well, we listened to President Oaks in the recent General Conference praising the old ways of family economy and everything like that, and family working together. That's family as the fundamental unit of society right there. So his recent General Conference talk that he gave in October of 2025, I would recommend reviewing that to anybody. Whatsoever is virtuous, lovely, or good report, or praiseworthy, we should strive to seek after those things. From everything I could tell, he was calling that virtuous, lovely, of good report, and praiseworthy. So, and anyhow, there's one more thought I want to connect to that real quick here. So my family's converts. I'm the first guy to go on a mission in my family, and so that level of converts, right? We met the missionaries when I was a kid, and what have you. My dad had been baptized when he was a kid, half of his family, but then, it's a pretty common story for people to, still have some adaptation period and what have you, and it's not easy. So anyhow, but my dad's grandfather, the Sutherland family, Southern Indiana, Northern Kentucky region, they were just traditionally farmers, right? He worked for the railroad there during the Great Depression. But during the Great Depression, from what I understand, he was able to help all sorts of people make it through it because he farmed. And he was good at it. His family hadn't lost the tradition. When I was a kid, hanging out with my grandma in Canto Park in Phoenix, I remember her grabbing a goose once by the neck. Hey, Jason, watch this. Because we'd go feed the ducks at the pond and stuff like that. And we'd eat geese. And it was like my grandma was like second nature to her. It was the most normal thing in the world. I thought my grandma was the coolest. This is cool stuff. It's virtuous, lovely, a good report, and praiseworthy, I think. Even my mom's dad, I heard that he was in charge of butchering chickens or something like that. I wouldn't have thought of him being that kind of person. He was the vice president of marketing for Armor Meats Company, right? So he was more of a shaker and a mover business-wise, right? That's the grandpa I grew up knowing. But apparently he was experienced a lot of old school stuff as a kid, So President Benson has a talk. It's called "Prepare for the Days of Tribulation." I'm not an English language expert, but I'm not stupid either. I did take AP English one year, and it was a lot of hard work. I didn't do it again the next year, but The is a definite article. Prepare for the days of tribulation. Now, I'm not sure that our doctrine is exactly what the rest of the Christian world calls it, but we are Christians. That's all there is to it. A whole 7 years thing, what have you, I don't know. I haven't heard the 7 years thing talked about a whole lot in general conference. But Gordon B. Hinckley referred to a time of all-consuming calamity that he hoped it wasn't yet during his presidency. While he was the prophet. President Nelson told us to prepare physically and spiritually like Captain Moroni, and to never stop preparing. I think that's a key word, and I think I recently made a video after anticipating Christ's return, talked about the bookends, right? And I said, let's please not misunderstand the concept of bookends. It's the end of a section. You got a new established doctrine, right? A permanently established council. We're getting ready to move on to the next topic, but do not leave that old topic behind. Don't leave it behind. President Nelson said, prepare and never stop preparing. Okay, now he's dead. Okay, does that council go away because he's dead? No. Never means never. And he was speaking as a representative of the Lord at the time he said it. President Benson was speaking as a representative of the Lord. All these guys were representatives of the Lord. So, prepare for the days of tribulation. President Benson talks about a lot of people think that transportation can't come to a halt here, a standstill here in America, that the grocery stores won't go bare, that communications won't go down, what have you. And he says the scriptures have told us so much about this, right? Why would we ever... So see, that's the other thing. People are waiting to find all these prophets that have said this and that in the modern day, and there are plenty of them, but there's not enough to satisfy some people, and so they want to ignore it. But then just read the Bible, I guess. So, sorry, I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. But really, I mean, like, at some point, you kind of sit there going, how do these people come to this conclusion that there's not going to be some kind of serious tribulation happening? Doesn't make sense. So, we're looking at, some awkward times right now with Iran. It is what it is. I don't think there's a single honest person out there that can say, gee, I feel sorry for the Ayatollah. If they are, I don't know, are you human? How can you be feeling sorry for the Ayatollah? It is what it is, right? This has been going on for years. And so there was a manual that was still commonly published in the early 2000s for the women of the church, for the Relief Society, and it had a significant section on homesteading. President Kimball, in his chapter in the book Faith Precedes the Miracle, has a chapter on the 10 virgins. And early on there's a section where he says, how many of you have already begun to let your food storage get lax, right? Speaking of food storage, in the early 2000s, I think there was a cultural shift. Now, President Nelson has told us the final arbiter of truth is God. Not the TV, not the media, not your favorite podcast or what have you, right? Yet in the early 2000s, there were all these shows about extreme hoarders. And I think it actually affected a cultural change in members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Which, to me, that doesn't make sense. I think we began to feel like, oh, we're too preppery. We got too much stuff. We're hoarding too much stuff. I'm not sure. You tell me in the comments if you feel like it. But the Lord's never changed his mind. He said, oh, well, shoot, because of that show, I guess I better back off on my doctrine that I revealed through my prophets. No, it didn't happen. I also have a thought, though, too, as I'm sitting here saying this. And I was reading in the Book of Mormon, this hit me hard one time, where it says the Nephites began to get very proud of their flocks. Very proud of their preparedness or whatever, I guess, right? Gosh, that makes me feel like garbage, because even if I'm doing a good job, maybe you're doing a good job serving others. Maybe you've served in the church a lot. Maybe you're it doesn't matter what good thing you're doing. Don't let it make you proud. And that's really hard sometimes. It's really hard. Just going to be honest, right? So President Benson said one of the biggest things we needed to watch out for was being aware of pride. even down to the point that people who are prepared, who are homesteading, who have a self-sufficient homestead, apparently we can get pretty proud of ourselves. I don't know, mine's pretty. It's not pretty yet. It does look quarterish. We moved in a hurry, and but we felt like, President Hinckley's counsel to be debt free, and the counsel to be self-sufficient, to be gardeners if you can, and things like that. If you have a plot there where it's legal, do it, use it, right? I found myself living in a spot where it wasn't legal. I found myself not liking that. I found that I believe that's a violation of the laws of nature, of nature's God. Samuel Adams would say, when you realize you've been subjected to some kind of unconscionable agreement, even if you signed the agreement, the law is null and void. It no longer has legal force because it violates the laws of nature and of nature's God. So that was kind of the attitude I took. I think I'm right. So it's really hard because you have to stand up for yourself, but then when you stand up for yourself, there can be a sense of pride and stuff too. And if you feel this constant need to submit to the advice of the world and things like that too, that's not good either. So I guess I just wanted to put this thought out there that, we've been told to be humble, we've been told to be prepared, we've been told to be the humble followers of Christ. When Jesus, here's another one. Look at the Book of Mormon version of the Consider the Lilies point in the Sermon on the Mount versus Matthew 5 through 7, right? So we're talking Book of Mormon, 3rd Nephi 12 through 14. I believe it's in 3rd Nephi chapter 13, but I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. That the Savior, he's talking to the multitude, right? So I'm going to pretend like I'm talking to the multitude here, right? And this is literally what the Book of Mormon describes. He's telling them all these teachings. And then he gets to the point where he says, don't worry about providing for yourself. Don't take no thought for tomorrow, right? Consider the lilies, all that kind of stuff. The Book of Mormon says, right before he does that, he turns to his 12 apostles. And he says, consider the lilies. Now, why the 12 apostles? They're basically full-time missionaries. What do we do when we're full-time missionaries? We don't worry about that stuff for ourselves, right? But then once he's done telling them that whole consider the lilies and all these other, the flowers, the birds, all that kind of stuff, once he's done telling them that part about you don't have any serious responsibility for providing for yourself, God's going to provide for you, right? Now he turns and he looks back at the rest of the audience. It's a violation of the laws of nature and of nature's God to not provide for yourself unless you're a full-time servant to the Lord. If you're the full-time servant to the Lord, you go and you ask for that last serving of oil and bread, right? Or you go and you ask for that, what have you, the widow feeds you, and then suddenly you do a miracle for them, right? That's if you're the servant of the Lord. But God didn't put us in this earth where there's a responsibility to take care of ourselves for us to not have the learning experience of taking care of ourselves. So the family's supposed to be the fundamental unit of society. Who's supposed to be the one making sure that we're provided for? And if you think money is going to fix all your problems, I don't know. I don't think history backs you up on that one. I think money fails. Of course, if you think that having land to farm is going to fix all of your problems, well, droughts don't back you up on that one either, right? So everything really is given by God in the end. But he still does want us to work to provide for ourselves and give it a shot, because that's part of the learning experience we're supposed to have here. He does want us to. We just got done recently studying Joseph of Egypt. And you can be a great instrument in the Lord's hands, kind of like my great-grandpa was, right? In helping people out if you're that kind of person. So, but you shouldn't let it go to your head. You shouldn't let service go to your head. Beware of pride. I think it is part of the fundamentals of this life. Some people might say stick to the fundamentals. How can it not be part of the fundamentals of this life? What's one of the first things that God told Adam and Eve? and we emphasize that story on a regular basis in the temple, right? So that's my thought. Just thought maybe somebody would get help out of it. Um, yeah, don't be afraid of the hoarder shows. Social media isn't the final arbiter of truth. Television shows aren't the final arbiter of truth. We should not let those things affect who we are. And that's all I got. Talk to you guys later.